welcome to Turtle Tracks Podcast. This is your host, Brian VanHooker, and I'm here with Chogrin, a amazing toy designer who has a new turtle release coming out soon, or is kind of already out, but also coming soon. Anyway, we'll get into it in a minute. Thank you so much for being here, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. I've been a fan of this podcast, and it's an honor to be here among Turtle TMNT royalty.
Oh my gosh, my pleasure, man. Please, thank you. So for those who don't know, Chogrin is an art toy designer. He's done a lot of cool shit with a lot of licenses. I mean, can you talk? I mean, so for those who are unfamiliar with your work, I'm going to put a little picture in the, icon or whatever. But like, is
Yeah.
this amazing turtle? The toy you're coming out is this really awesome turtle design where it's like is it vinyl?
It's resin.
Okay, it's resin.
I hope to make a vinyl like version someday. But yeah, it's made out of really good resin. Like it's going to be a little bit more delicate. But yeah, it's based off kind of like my Guru. I'm calling it. I guess now it's become a thing. My Guru toy line because I have it's four of them now. I have a Guillermo del Toro one, a Kevin Smith one, and now I kind of started like diving into pop culture characters like Beetlejuice. I have a Beetlejuice one coming out, and then of course Turtles. I have a actually New York Comic Con is coming up, and I have a glow in the dark special edition variant there that will be available at New York Comic Con. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
So so again, that's near Comic Con. So I'm gonna post this right before Comic Con. So if you're listening to this before Comic Con, you'll have a chance to pick this up. But some people might have seen this, but maybe not connecting it. So it's this like six-armed like resin statue of a turtle and
Yeah.
with various weapons. And like you've done this for Beetlejuice and Kevin Smith and what was the other one?
Oh, Guillermo del Toro. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So anyway, super cool design. When did this? Well, I guess before we get started on all that, were you like a big turtle fan growing up or anything like that?
Oh man, massive, massive. I mean, like I think everybody in their childhood like has like different stages. Like for me, like there were two big massive ones. It was Ghostbusters and Turtles, and those were the ones that lasted the longest because I remember that it was multiple Halloweens in a row that I dressed up as both. For Turtles, like I mean, Turtles has one of those like key like core memories in my mind because in 1990, my dad like threw me this crazy Ninja Turtles party where like he literally hired. I think Turtles were so popular around the world. I lived in Ecuador, South America at the time, and even in Ecuador, like it was like a huge freaking thing. Like the pizza was super popular. Like everything that came with the Turtles was super popular, and there was I think this party event business that offered Ninja Turtles like birthday party, and I remember just being there, like even though they were obviously bootleg turtles, like in my mind as a kid, I was like, this is like insane, like the what's it called? Like when you go to Disney, you see the characters, it's kind of like that kind of like the make believe in a way, and it just kind of sort of just like I remember it just cemented like besides a really happy memory and an amazing birthday. And looking back at now, how lucky I was to have that as a child. So but yeah, so Turtles were that's my way of saying like yeah, I'm Turtles is part of my DNA. I'm a turtle mutation.
So you were watching in Ecuador. I'm always so curious about like what Turtle Mania looked like in other countries. Like what version of the show did you get? Like were there toys everywhere? I'm so curious about all that stuff.
Yeah, there was. I remember we had this toy store called Salón de Juguete, or there's another one called Mi Jugueteria. It's kind of sort of like their version of Toys R Us. And I remember Turtles were so popular that you could actually get like turtle toys. There was some stuff that was a little bit harder to get. Like my dad would have to get it either from the States or have it shipped. But I remember Turtles being so popular that I would actually see like Turtles like in the stores, like the toys and stuff. So it was pretty crazy. Like, and I being a kid like from being half Ecuadorian, half American, I kind of grew up with both worlds. So at the time I didn't really know like, oh, I live in Ecuador and like, this is it just was normal for me, like seeing that kind of stuff. And then I moved here to the States when I was like 13, and I was just like, oh my God, there's like tons of this stuff everywhere. It was like so yeah, but I was like, I remember the one Christmas I was so fortunate. I got like the layer. I mean, I got like I had everything, which is like pretty crazy now thinking about it, how fortunate I was. So I'm really happy that the turtles are like a happy memory, and also inspiration, because then later, a lot of us grew up with the cartoon and the movie, but then we later like if we become it's almost like you become fans of it again by discovering the Eastman and Laird comics. And I had a period where I became like really hardcore, and I was like, I'm not watching anything unless it's like an adaptation of the comic books and stuff like that. That's why I really loved the 2003 TV series,
Oh
because it
yeah,
was
great.
it leaned very much into the original comics. And actually I have to say, I don't know if I'm sure maybe a lot of people agree with me, but Turtles Forever is probably one of the best like turtle movies ever made.
Oh yeah, it's
So
fantastic.
yeah. So
The only
anyways.
the only asterisk I have is that the casting of those classic turtles
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. The
awful.
voice, the
God.
voice, the
But
voices.
aside from
Yeah,
that, Turtles Forever is fantastic. So I
yeah.
just
20 the 2012 series. The 2012 series tried to do it. I liked what they did with it. I just don't feel like the animation and the budget was as well executed. But I'll give it a pass.
that's fair. And
So
I think I feel like the first crossover they did for the 2012 show was really good, but it felt like, oh, it's a two-parter crammed into one.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I really like the second crossover they did a little better, where 2012
Yes.
became Rocksteady work for 80 Shredder and Krang. That was great.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Actually, you're right. For a long time I only thought it was that first part, that first one that came out, because
Sure.
that one, the one I had the issue with the animation quality, and I noticed that the second one it was much better. It looked much nicer, it looked much cleaner. So I mean, at the time, like when you're making those shows, you don't really the budget and all those things is kind of sort of out of your hands, and you try to make the best of it. I know Chiro and all those guys like did an amazing show. That's why the 2012 series is like one of the best. So, but sorry, I feel like we're like obviously this is a Turtles podcast and we're nerding out about Turtles, but to go back to my guru to kind of
Please,
sort of
yeah.
the
So how did
the the
how did you get to that? Well, I mean, I guess how did you get into toy design first? Then we'll get to the gurus.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The inception of it. So toy design. I'll give a little like going back to my childhood again. I remember when I was little, one of the things they would ask me is I would always say I wanted to create my own cartoon. I wanted to work for Hanna-Barbera, which I did later on at Cartoon Network. But one of the things sometimes I would say is I wanted to be Santa Claus. Because I wanted to design toys. So I've surrounded myself with toys all my life and never stopped collecting. I still collect to this day. I mean, you can't see it, but I'm like holding a Mutant Mayhem Playmates turtle in my hand right now. So I started doing gallery shows. I kind of like went to school for illustration and animation, and that kind of sort of like. And I moved out to LA. I worked at Cartoon Network, so I was kind of sort of like in the circle of a lot of artists, a lot of people, and I started doing these gallery shows where we started doing pop culture themes, and one of them was Turtles, Ghostbusters, everything. I pretty much made a list of everything that I liked, and that's how I basically decided what art shows I wanted to do. And these art shows kind of became sort of like, what can I do next? Like it became, what can I take my artwork and turn it into? And so I kind of started challenging myself. And one of the shows I decided, I'm like, well, I've always wanted to like take my stuff into 3D. And I decided it would be cool to experiment and do like I didn't even look at it. I think of it at the time as a toy. I looked at it more as like a sculpture, a statue. And it was for the first one that I did that for was 2014 Popeye the Sailor show that I did officially with King Feature Syndicate. And for that show, I designed like this like spinach can with Popeye's arms like popping out of the can. And I just seeing my design like that I drew down on 2D and see it in 3D, like it was just like it became like an addiction. And then like I kind of then after that, like every art show, then I kind of tried to do like a 2D piece and then a 3D piece to kind of complement it. So the following year in 2015, I did a Guillermo del Toro exhibit called In Service of Monsters, and that's the one where like I really kind of like the bug really bit me, and creating like doing my putting my stuff in 3D. And that one I did a design that at the time I called Buddha del Toro, and I was trying to come up with a design that, like, I originally had drawn like a caricature version of Guillermo with a tentacle arm and a Hellboy hand, because I was like, oh, that that's kind of a good representation of him, like as a filmmaker. But then I thought like it's not enough. Like I need more arms, like to represent all the different facets of everything that he loves. And so that's when I kind of started playing around with like the looking at deity imagery. I was also inspired. There's a movie that Del Toro did called Chronos, and it's a little device that has 6 arms. It's like insect like. So there was a lot of like different. It was like an amalgamation of a lot of things at the time, and so like I landed with his design with Del Toro's body that I had drawn, but with 6 arms popping out. And that kind of sort of like, and each arm represented like different things, like different movies, different things that he likes. So it wasn't only the Hellboy hand and the tentacle. Then it was like a kaiju arm from Pacific Rim, and the Pale Man's hand from Pan's Labyrinth, and then I more vague things like a crustacean arm to kind of represent that he loves insects, and also I guess Lovecraftian. And then I had a robot arm that kind of represented like he loves mechanical stuff, and also I guess the Jaegers from Pacific Rim. Sorry, I'm getting really specific. All
No,
that
I
to
like
say,
this stuff. This is good. This is all great.
all that to say became kind of like I didn't know it at the time because I kind of sort of planned it as a one-off. I did that prototype. It wasn't even a prototype. It was like I did like that one sculpture for as a one-off for the gallery. Guillermo actually has the original, which I was lucky to see in his like Bleak House collection. Is actually he has it. Last time I saw it, he had it in his Ray Harryhausen section, which I was really honored to see it in. But
Yeah.
and that was 2015. So it wasn't until like 2018, 2019 I started going to like shows like Designer Con, and I kind of started meeting people in the kind of sort of in the toy industry. My friend David Igo, who actually has a Kickstarter right now called Monsters, he was working at Sideshow at the time, and he was kind of sort of like my door in to kind of sort of at the time Sideshow had just begun doing a division called Unruly Industries, which was dedicated to like vinyl toy collector, exclusive items, things like that. So and so that was kind of sort of my way in. But kind of looking back, like the designer toys had always kind of been like in the background. When I was in art school, I had bought a book called I Am Plastic, and then there was another book called I Am Plastic too. So that was designer toys had always kind of been a big influence, like in like as inspiration for me. So it was almost always kind of like in the background, but then like I finally kind of sort of like pushed myself, and like I did it. And it wasn't even like a planned thing. It was a happy accident. It was almost kind of like the art galleries. I was never planning on being an art gallery curator. It just kind of sort of took off. And then the same thing kind of happened with the toys. I pitched the Guillermo toy as like a limited edition vinyl figure, and then that kind of sort of became the template for doing the Kevin Smith one, and now the Turtle and Beetlejuice. So, yeah, it's that was like I think the Guillermo one was 2019, 2020. So it's been kind of just been nonstop since.
Has
So
the Gamma one, did that like did they have to go to him and like get his like okay on all that stuff? Like how did all that work?
yeah, I got his blessing. Like just I sent him a message, but obviously that's not going to be enough. So Sideshow reached out to him, and I think they got all the rights and all that stuff squared away. So that's how we were able to do it officially with him. And then we did the same thing with Kevin. And with Kevin, it was really cool because I got to know him by going through some of his shows and stuff like that. And I got to do some other toys for him that I did like actual mall rat versions of Jay and Silent Bob, which I now that I think about it, would would fit so great in the TMNT universe.
Sure. I mean, it looks like you were aiming for the movie verse, like the movie aesthetic of look with that too. Like it was the very.
Yeah, yeah, and that's mostly because the style that I draw in is very influenced by the retro, like a lot of people call it rubber hose animation, like the 1930s. Like
Oh yeah.
the
Uh-huh.
the biggest compliment that I can get is when people tell me that like my stuff reminds them either of Popeye or Astro Boy. So and that's it's not exactly what I'm aiming for, but those are definitely big. Those are two big influences of mine. So it's definitely like I take it as a compliment for sure. So.
Kevin Smith is like the nicest. I did a for Cracked Magazine. I did a story where I went on the first cruise askew, the cruise that he did earlier this year, and I
Oh yeah,
got to interview him and all that, and he's just like super nice and amazing. Like he must have been great to work with.
yeah. No, no, I don't want I wanted to use the phrase he's a doll, but he is. He's wonderful. Like one of the nicest things that I won't ever forget is I went and did a podcast at his house where we ironically or actually it was surreal at the time since I had just done the Guillermo toy and I was in the middle of making his toy. We talked about a Guillermo del Toro movie. We talked about Nightmare Alley. The podcast was about that. So it was weird talking to one of my heroes talking about another one of my heroes. So it was this weird, weird thing. But anyways, um, all that to say, after the podcast was done, I remember he like walked me out, and as I got into my car, like I guess that where he lives, like the streets are kind of dangerous. There's a lot of accidents, and he kind of sort of just like he waited until I got in the car and I was all okay, like, and he waved me goodbye, and I was like, I thought that was like the sweetest. Like he could have just been like, "See you later, kid," and like slammed the door, but he actually like waved me goodbye, and that was like the sweetest thing.
He's super
So
genuine. You really
yeah,
he's yeah. Um,
yeah,
I'm curious, like, so doing these gurus, the appeal is you got these six arms and you're
yeah,
finding the six things that represent them. Is it
yeah.
hard to narrow it down for you?
It,
Like, it's got to be these six, and how? Like, what do you come? Like, what's the process?
yeah. It's funny. It's funny you say that because like I remember when I did the Guillermo one, I thought it was going to be like one and done, and then they started kind of like somebody started asking me like, well, what's your next one going to be? Like, who are you going to do next? And immediately I thought of Kevin Smith. Like the main three directors that I would do, and if I ever get a chance to, the trifecta would be Del Toro, Kevin Smith, and Tim Burton. So if
Oh,
I
sure,
ever,
that's a
so
great
so
one.
that would be the trilogy for me. I would love to do Spielberg, but I would almost have to do Spielberg as a tank, like a tank with arms coming out of it, because
So
he's
it's
just
like
such a,
20
he's so,
arms.
he's just like yeah, he's just like such a machine,
Yeah.
like. Um, but the Smith one was the one that helped me, I guess, for lack of better words, to help me crack the code because like I was trying to emulate at the beginning too much what I did with Guillermo one. And what I love about the Guillermo one is that the arms actually mutate
Yes.
into like turn into the things like. But the Kevin one, because Kevin is such a specific real world kind of guy, and he does like all these different things like podcasts, like movies, writes comic books. I was like, I needed to kind of sort of encompass all those things, and there was for me creatively there wasn't any better way than to have him actually holding those things in his hands. So the Kevin one was kind of sort of like the one that helped me break the mold, and then I was able to then kind of sort of apply that to other characters too. So when I did the turtles, for example, the Kevin one was when I figured out like the two middle arms to have something kind of sort of long in the middle to kind of
Sure.
sort of help break up the other two arms. And then when I did the turtle one, I did the exact same thing because I had Donnie's staff and Leonardo's sword like in the middle, because I knew that Mikey and Raphael's weapons were slightly on the medium side. And then the top, I always knew that the top two arms was either going to be a slice of pizza and the mutagen can. So
It must
the
have been
the
a little easier for the turtles as opposed to us,
yeah.
right?
Yes, yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's
The
almost like
turtle,
it was like set for you almost.
yeah, the turtle one was just like kind of like a no-brainer. I mean, like you have to have a slice of pizza and you have to have the canister of ooze. There was one version I played around with where I had him instead of the canister of ooze to kind of keep it food themed, I had him holding the turtle's ice cream, and It
But
was
you
really
compromised and had it on the ground, which I love.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I knew there was gonna be a sewer base that I was gonna put it on. So I was like, I'll put it in there like melting, and I was like,
I'd
it's
wondered
perfect.
that too when I saw the thing of the popsicle on the ground. I was like, I wonder if he wanted him to hold it. He's like, I can't make it 7 arms. I'll put it on the
Yeah,
ground.
yeah. Well, it's actually I'll give you an exclusive like that I'm hoping to eventually, do it someday. I had a director's cut and because of cost we couldn't do it, but the original version had a skateboard on his shell.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
yeah, and on the back of the skateboard there was a foot logo with like a no foot logo going through it.
Okay.
So I was like, guess I was like, what's another thing that turtles do? I was like, of course, like skateboarding. So someday I hope to make like one with like the skateboard on the back of the shell. So yeah.
Did you struggle at all like with the different like armbands, bandana colors, etc.? Like,
That was weird. That was weird because when
sure.
I originally pitched it, I pitched it just as um the color version. I think I did it all as red bandana. So then it was weird like deciding how I was gonna like distribute like the colors. I didn't want to be obviously my favorite turtle. I do have a favorite turtle, and that's Raphael. So I knew the bandana just because Raphael's my favorite, but also to pay respect that the original
Yeah.
turtles all were
All
all
red would
red.
be acceptable, sure.
So I was like, because people had been asking me, is there going to be a version where the bandana color changes? I'm like, no, that's going to be prominent. Like in the normal version, it's always going to be a red bandana, but then it's going to have the multiple different colors, on yeah. And it was kind of in like the style that I went for. It was like I was trying to imbue a little bit like of everything. I was even looking like at the head sculpts of the Pez dispensers and things like that. Like I was trying to imbue just kind of like all the different turtles. Like obviously it's very much in my style, but it's like the cartoon was an influence. I wanted to kind of give it a little bit of the meanness from the comic with the face. So yeah, I poured I filtered all the turtle stuff into it as much as I could. So
Yeah, I can't imagine you want to do other bandana because like the red can technically represent them all, but the other colors can't.
yeah.
Although I imagine
Yeah.
like black and white one would work, right? Like
W- w-
Rod,
Which
red
which I'm
map. Yeah.
yeah, which I'm hoping they all like they sell out because like it's based on that we'll hopefully do like more variants, and I'm like that's like the number one variant I want to do is the Mirage one where it's like black and white with red, so hopefully we'll get to do that one in the future. But for right now we have the what we're calling the original color version, which is just the all the colors. Then we have the ooze glow in the dark version, which is going to be exclusive to New York Comic Con, and then there's going to be this black and gold one, which actually looks really cool. It's really
Sundry?
shiny. What's that? No, no, no. We haven't revealed. I guess maybe I shouldn't be saying that, but no. Well, actually, no. It's fine. It's fine. One thing is me talking about it. Another thing I think is showing the image. But there's going to be a third one. It's going to be black and gold, and that one I don't know. I don't know when that's. Yeah, I don't know when they're planning on releasing that or for what event they're planning it. But it is going to be another exclusive colorway. So.
The glow in the dark one's fantastic. I'm such a sucker for glow in the dark stuff. It looks great.
Yeah, that was tough for me to decide like what elements to make glow in the dark, and I was like, I there was something about like for me, I was like, in the dark, thinking of like the eyes and the teeth and the weapons. I was like, I gotta do that. So
Yeah, it's not because like you like the Playmates toy you just held up, right? Like
yeah,
they
yeah,
see the skin and
yeah,
nothing else, and that's cool. I mean, it's cool to have this bright glowing green thing,
yeah,
but it's like a tough choice. Like yours has the plastron and all the accessories and the eyes and the teeth. So like the
yeah,
face really pops in a way that theirs doesn't. So it's
yeah,
interesting like like those make those choices because you really have like it's kind of
yeah.
like black and white, right? It's glow, not glow.
Yeah, and I decided to make the chest glow because I knew that was a big area, and that would help like kind of sort of help the rest of the figure kind of glow a little bit. So
Interesting.
yeah. No, this is that's one of the fun things about like working doing designer toys and doing those things is kind of sort of then taking those decisions like when you do different colorways, it's like you do kind of have to like sit for a little bit and like think very strategically. Then of course, like, once you're done and you submit it, a day later you're like, I should have done this, but it is what it is what it is. It was a blast. I want to make sure that I also, before we end the podcast, I do a special thank you to Frank Kozik, who sadly passed away last year. But he was the one that really spearheaded this project at Kidrobot with me. He believed in me. He believed in my vision, and he's the one that kind of sort of got my foot in the door over at Kidrobot. I also want to thank Trevor and everybody at NECA, because NECA and Kidrobot are connected. I don't know if they had any hand in helping make Turtle Guru come to light, but I know Frank Kozik was definitely very much a big reason why the Turtle Guru was made possible. So yeah, thanks, Frank.
Thank Trevor on every episode. That's really his.
Yeah.
He comes up on this a lot. So.
Oh, does he? Yeah. No, I mean, like, I only met him in person once. It was at a convention, and man, he was like this, like, kind of like gruff, like tough, kind of has like this tough guy, like had this tough guy like attitude. But then, like, I noticed like a softness in him, and like he's just like the sweetest guy. Like, I had like the best conversations. Actually, it's super surreal, because like the last time I talked to him on the phone, we were like in, sort of like finishing the deal for the turtle toy. And it was like, that was on a Thursday. And then literally got the news that he had passed like that same week on a Saturday. So I was like,
Oh, wow.
but yeah, it was like, that was like, it took me a while to kind of sort of like, I was just kind of, it was, yeah. But
I don't know the art toy world crazy well. I know it a bit. I don't know if you know the people at Clutter. Um,
mm, yeah, I've definitely heard of them. They're in New York, I think, right?
yeah. They're like not far from me. So I've written for the magazine, and I kind of learned about the art toy world through
Yeah,
them. Because just didn't know it existed, or like very much about it, frankly.
yeah.
And it's super. And Kozik was like a fucking like a Mount Rushmore of that world.
Yeah, like a godfather. Yeah, he was a
Yeah.
godfather. Yeah, no, and like that's when I first talked to him, that's one of the reasons I kind of was a little like intimidated, but and obviously, like his personality, the way he came across, it was like not like sort of like didn't come across as super friendly. But once you kind of engage and talk to him, he I also found out from other designer friends, like, he said the nicest things about me, which I was completely in shock, because I was like, I mean, I still kind of pinch myself. I can't believe it that, that he like, not that I don't believe in my stuff, but it's always nice when other people, like, appreciate your work, and compliment you, and always going to be very thankful for that. So yeah, I know I already said it, but thank you, Frank. So
And to be one of the final things that like he was a part of, which is
yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, I think his legacy at Kid Robot is going to be always going to send shockwaves in the toy industry. I mean, his little Labbit character is so hilarious. Actually, one of the last things I think that I saw of his character, one of the last things that he might have worked on, was they did it's so bizarre, and I want it so bad. It's Conan the Barbarian Labbit. It's like, and he's actually standing up, like, but he's Conan. And I was like, it's one of the weirdest, most beautiful things I've ever seen, and I need it. So I would probably end up getting that and putting it next to my turtle to in honor of Frank. So
when you do a guru, are you like it must be like I saw like it must be tough because like when you're trying to cross over the different um like do you have to deal with the different companies, right? Like I saw Jim Henson one, like, but you couldn't do a Fraggle, a
right.
Gurney, a Kermit, like you couldn't do because you'd have to get permission from a million people, right?
Yeah, that's when it starts getting kind of difficult. And I kind of like, if I ever did a Tim one, I would probably have to get like really specific. I would have to kind of get like creative with it, because like that's the thing with some of these creators, is like they have different licenses, like from different movie studios.
Right,
So
like you get a piece of Batman
Yeah.
The Beetlejuice. Well, those I think they're both Warner Brothers, but like to get a
Yeah.
piece of that and whatever other ones you try to say pay like a Scissorhands or something. Like
Yeah.
I imagine
Yeah.
it'd be tough to kind of get those from everywhere. And
Yeah.
I mean, like, have you had any issues? Like, is somebody getting get up in arms because you had one scissor hand and one, or
The
is it
o-
just easier to avoid it?
the only one that I thought we were might have an issue was when we did the Guillermo one because he had
Hellboy.
the Hellboy hand. But because I had worked with Mike before, I kind of sort of gave them a heads up, and I think Sideshow kind of smoothed it out, so it all worked out. That was the only time I kind of sort of like thought I was like, oh, we might have to like change the hand. And that hand I think also worked just because it was very much specifically the movie hand Hellboy, which has like these like the Del Toro swirls I like to call
Oh,
on his
interesting.
hands. So yeah. So yeah, other than that, like the Kevin one was pretty smooth sailing just because he doesn't own a lot of his IP, but the stuff that I did on his figure was very much kind of sort of like specific to
It's
just
about him.
him as a person. Yeah.
Like, I mean, like
Uh,
I mean, Mubi, he owns Mubi.
Movie and Jane Silent Bob.
And
Yeah.
Clerks, you chose a script. I'm guessing. Well, I mean, I think it's cool because it's like it talks to him
Yeah.
as a writer. It's obviously like his greatest
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
So I mean,
No,
like,
yeah.
was that worrisome because he doesn't own Clerks, at least not here in the U.S.
I think as long, yeah, I think as long as it just said, like, for example, one of the other things that we had was the Buddy Christ heart, but because it was just a heart, with and that's from Dogma, which he doesn't own either, because it was very specific things. Like another one that I thought we were gonna have to run an issue with was when I did the Mallrats, because I know Mallrats is owned by Universal, but I think the name in itself is like fine. Like if you did like, if I did versions of Jay and Silent Bob as the Mallrats. So, but now you know what? It's funny talking to you. Like I don't
You're
know
now
why, but
terrified.
no, no, not at all. I actually all I keep thinking about is like now how much we TMNT should put like Jay and Silent Bob in the universe as rats.
I'm all
So
about it. That's great. I'm a big Kevin Smith fan.
I'm,
So
I'm gonna I'm gonna manifest that in this podcast, make it happen.
do you
So
have?
yeah, and make that and have them voiced by Kevin and Jay, although Kevin I guess wouldn't say much, but
Absolutely, that would be amazing.
yeah, yeah.
I don't know if you have a second. You had some really awesome other turtle designs. You posted them on your Instagram. Uh,
Oh,
I don't know if like, there's anything you wanted to talk about with these, but like so you had other toy concepts for Ninja Turtles
yeah,
that
yeah,
are
yeah.
pretty awesome on your Instagram.
Once I kind of knew I was doing Turtle Guru, I immediately was like, obviously, like I had drawn out a bunch of other things. Like there's another, I would love to do like kind of like a four set of my take of the Mirage of the like a vinyl version of the Mirage Turtles. It gets tricky because the more like old school you get, the more kind of sort of like, well, you would have to, and now I understand why Playmates did what they did to change them all up. It's kind of like in my way, I was like, I'll make it like collector friendly. I'll design it in a way where it comes with all the weapons, and if you want to have all four of them, just buy four. So so yeah, I did this one called Turtle Prime, which was kind of like my take on the Mirage one. I did another Guru. It would be the Guru equivalent of the bad guys, which would be Krang, the Krang android body with like different arms coming out. That one was tricky because I wanted to include Bebop and Rocksteady in it somehow, but I was like thinking, no, it would be cool if I just stick to the aesthetic of the actual android body and then add like weapons to it that are either like, like a Mouser or like something to Baxter Stockman or Shredder. Like I gave him like a Shredder hand. Um, I don't know. I don't know if I'll get to make that one someday, but it would look really, really cool next to the turtle one. So hopefully,
Sure.
fingers crossed. There's another one that I did kind of. I did this toy for Stranger Things called Ella Gorgon, which was like a fusion of the Demogorgon and Eleven.
It's
And I
great.
kind
It's
of,
like super cute. I love it.
yeah. And I
Color
kind of
choices
sort of.
are amazing.
Oh, thank you. I think that kind of what makes that piece pop for sure is the colors.
Yeah.
And I kind of sort of took a similar pose. I call that all within my hands pose because it's kind of like a character holding what's very dear to them in the middle of their hands. I grew up. I think that's my Roman Catholic upbringing, like the religious imagery, like in the back of my head. I'm not religious at all, but I think it's just kind of like in my subconscious is there. So I thought it was like, what would a turtle version of that be? And I was like, of course it would be like Splinter with like, with the turtles. And I'm like, but how can I put like all four turtles like in his hands? I was like, oh, with a box of pizza. So I have that, and yeah, there's really, like I said, like I could take it in a bunch of different directions, but I'm just happy to have been able to been given like this one opportunity to work officially with the turtles. So I'm stoked. Yeah.
Is
And
getting is melding your style with the Mirage Turtles harder because like those are so sort of angular and serious, and that kind of that old, I don't know, this like the animation style that you're emulating is such kind of round and happy. Like, is it?
yeah, it's actually not that tough because if you look at the some of the well, I guess you kind of have to get specific as they really like evolved from the original sketches to later. But what I loved about the original Eastman and Laird designs is that they were really chunky. They were really chunky, and I love that they had like what I like to call is the kind of the Popeye effect, whereas like the arm starts out really thin at the shoulder, and then it kind of gets really big
Oh
towards
yeah,
the bottom,
sure, yeah.
towards the bottom. So it's kind of like I have found like a nice kind of sort of like blend of the two. And I think the closest I got with the Turtle Guru was the eyes. Like that's probably as close as I got to Mirage. With it's not even the Mirage eyes. It's more of the spirit, just kind of like the angry the angry turtle. Um, but yeah, no. I mean, hopefully, and if I did that, I would love to do it like a like big 12-inch. I don't know if you ever saw those ones that Toy Cube put out, but they're these massive kaiju.
Oh, the
Uh,
monsters. Yes,
the
I always
mo
wanted one of those. I'd been to a few of those designer toy
Yeah,
shows with the Clutter people and
yeah.
saw several of those. They were always out of my price range, but they're way cool. I don't know what they're
Oh my,
called. Who did them? I
I
forget.
yeah. I think you're right. I think they might be called Monster something. But did you ever see the Shredder and the Bebop and Rocksteady they were going to release that they've never released?
No, because I would have like Bebop and
The
Rocksteady are like my favorite. I would have definitely gone nuts for that.
I'll send you. I'll see if
Please
I can
do.
find the picture and I'll send it to you. The Bebop one was insane. Like it was just like it was so good. And I was so sad that like hopefully they will. I mean, they were sculpted. I think prototypes were made. So hopefully someday
Ah,
we'll get to see them. But I have I had to get the Raphael one. That was one of those
there were some crazy
crazy.
colors too, which I
Yeah,
liked.
yeah. That was one of those crazy dumb gifts that I got for myself one year. So.
I also liked your mutagen can guy.
Yes, that's a toy series that I'm hoping that I possibly in conversations about doing with some franchises. So I'm hoping to do that with Turtles someday. I would love to do the TMNT ooze canister as a character.
I like the little
Um,
turtle in his hand. That's
yeah,
cool.
hold it. Yeah, because the whole well, I don't want to call it. Well, I guess it is a gimmick, but I would do inanimate objects from different movies, and like I did one for Jurassic, the one that
That
from
one's great.
Jurassic.
The Barbasol can is fantastic.
Yeah,
I love that.
yeah.
I'm
So
a
I
Jurassic
thought,
Park guy. I love that. It's so good.
yeah. I thought of my like some of my favorite franchises. So it was like I did Ghostbusters, like the Ghost Trap, like with the little ghost coming out of it, the Jurassic Park Barbasol can, and then of course the ooze canister. And I was like, the whole thing would be for you to open up the little ooze canister and like have the four turtles, and then you can put them like in his hand and stuff. So
Oh, that's cool. I didn't realize that. That's awesome.
yeah. So yeah, no, fingers crossed, fingers crossed. I also want to manifest it into existence. I really want to do a variant cover for IDW for because they're killing it. They're killing it with the Turtle comics right now.
Oh, the Turtle
So
comic is great. The IDW. I
yeah,
mean, the story that Tom Waltz and Sophie and like those people built, like it's just such a great, rich universe. It's kind of like the best of everything. It's fantastic.
there's so much of it. I'm almost kind of like, I don't want to say I'm afraid to jump in, but I think this year is finally going to be the year I'm going to buy like volume one. I know they've gone beyond that now. There are different storylines and stuff like that. They've gone batshit, complete batshit, which is great. So, but I'm gonna get volume one and like
Do it.
finally sit down and read it this year. Yeah.
It's great, and
So
there's like it's like I said, it's the best. It's kind of like the best of everything up until that point. Lot tons of new interesting characters too. Um, that comic is really good. I can't say enough good things. I don't want to.
because
Oh, go ahead.
go ahead. Yeah.
No, so, start with issue one, and it's like and like there's some crazy things about the origin that you think I don't know if you know what it is, but like
Yeah.
it works astoundingly well. It's so
Okay.
good.
Okay. All right. I'll take your word for it. And then it just restarted recently, right?
So the continuity it's within the same continuity, but yes, they got to 150, took a little break, and now they're doing it with the new with Jason Aaron, but it's following the events of the first one plus like the first 150 issues. So this is the same universe. It's not a reboot. It's
Oh,
just
cool, cool, cool.
it's just kind of like a hopping on point because there's a lot of continuity,
Yeah.
but like I cannot recommend that enough. Plus, they're doing a new thing called a Mutant Nation, where like they've created so many characters over the past decade plus that like they're getting a chance to kind of explore some of those side characters in the other book. So like they're continuing on the universe in really cool ways. So
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. I'm gonna check it out. I love Last Ronin and all that stuff, so I'm looking forward to it. I know we're probably running out of time, so really quick, I just want to plug my short film Lucky Brave Sunshine that I wrote and directed is coming out is going to be premiering on YouTube on October 18th. So check it out on my YouTube channel. I'm on all social media at Chogrin. So.
yes, and so to be clear, so the original color version of the Turtle Guru is already sold out.
The original color, I think, is an open edition. The variants are the ones that are going to be limited, I think, to 500 or something. And I think
Okay,
the New York Comic Con one is sold out online, but I think whatever stock they have left over is going to be available on the floor show at the con.
and that's the
So.
going that okay. So I'm going to New York Comic Con most likely. So I've got to go to where to get it.
Yes, yes. Yeah.
Big
I
Robot.
forgot the booth number, but yeah, Kid Robot. You go
Got
to
it.
the
Okay.
Kid Robot booth. Yeah. So.
And
Uh,
like is the original Guru still available online for people to get or
yeah, yeah. The original Guru you can get at kidrobot.com, and I think it's also available at Big Bad Toy Store and Entertainment Earth and all the other toy retailers.
all right,
So.
cool. I'm sure like it's a really cool design. It's like no other turtle collectible, so it's a cool piece to have in your
Thank you,
collection.
thank you. My main goal this year, besides obviously celebrating the 40th anniversary, is I wanna get one in Kevin Eastman's hands. I would say also Peter Laird, but I know he's a little bit harder to get a hold of. So yeah.
I mean, Eastman does a lot of cons. I'm sure he's doing something out there where he can.
Oh, I'll find him. I'll find him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but
A last question, and I ask this of everybody is who's your? I know you said who's your favorite turtle is, but so who's your favorite turtle? I know you said it's Raph, and why? So why is Raph your favorite turtle?
I think well, I always gravitated when I was a kid. I always gravitated towards the color red. Red's my favorite color, so that's probably the easiest answer. To me, he always just like felt like the actual more of the leader of the group than Leonardo. But obviously, as I got older, it's all a mutation of the comics and cartoons. But probably my favorite storyline that kind of deals with that whole dynamic is the 2007 movie.
2007
So.
movie is great. That's a great movie.
Yeah.
That fight scene's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Uh,
I would
Kevin,
I would honestly would love to come back on here just to pitch you what I would do with the Henson Turtles 30 years later. So
a lot of
I know
people, I mean,
I
myself included, but a lot of people are like, oh, if they're doing because they're doing a Ronin movie, like have Judith Hogue and like the Henson guys
yeah.
figure out that because I mean, like that's a hell of a way to do it. I think.
Oh, absolutely. I would love that, and I would consider it part of continuity. But I'm such a continuity stickler that I have written a version where it it would be a sequel to just number one, and then I have written it in my head where it would be like it would almost be like two movies. So you would get a trilogy. I call it the Judith Hogue trilogy. So because for me, two, even though two is part of it's a continuity, the moment you recast somebody, it's like an alternate universe. So
And
sadly,
like, there's such all three movies for various reasons have very different tones and looks.
yeah.
So
Oh, also they changed. It went from TCRI to TGRI. TGRI. Yeah. Yeah.
sure, yeah.
But I still love Secret of the Ooze. Still Henson Turtles. It's great. But yeah, different continuity. So, anyways, I'll leave it.
I'm
I'll leave it there. I'll leave it there. Turtle nerds. Thank you for having me. It's been a blast.
Dude, my pleasure. I'm sorry I didn't give you. I'm sorry I ended up having to cut off, but it is such a pleasure. Thanks for talking. Everybody, look it up. Turtle Guru, Chogrin on Instagram. Lots of amazing stuff, and thanks for being here. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Take care.
As the turtles progressed in their teachings, they learned that one can transcend violence and achieve a higher spiritual awareness through the sounds of music.
Standing in water looks like glass. A world of blue is what I see. It's smooth and flat inside my hand. I just wanna ride it as I set it free. I'm standing. Keep on, skipping stones on a smooth blue pane of glass. I'm skipping stones. Sometimes I stand and look at all that must be done. It seems as though it's too much for anyone. And I try to think back into that giant pain-like sea, and how the rings would fall from a small flat rock in me. Oh, I'm skipping stones. I'm a smooth blue pane of glass. Oh, skipping stones. Water surrounds me, but the time for rings has passed. Oh, yeah, I'm skipping stones. I'm a smooth blue pane of glass. I'm skipping stones.